Here, we'll briefly cover how to enter fractions into some various calculators you may need for this course. We'll begin by showing you how to use the TI-30XS. I'll bring up a calculator on the screen now. If you have a TI-30XS and you'd like to reduce a fraction to lowest terms and take 10 over 4 and keep it in the form of a fraction, here's what we can do. We'll begin by entering the 10, and then we'll use the N/D button in the third row. When we press this button, it changes that 10 into the numerator of a fraction and then leaves a flashing box underneath this division bar. This means the calculator is now prompting us to enter the denominator, which is 4. Then we can press enter, and the calculator will automatically change it to lowest terms, which is 5/2. So just to review, we say 10 followed by the N/D button in the third row divided by 4. This fraction is sometimes called an improper fraction. When we say it's improper, this means that the numerator is larger than the denominator. You can also change this into mixed form, again using the TI-30XS. You can see on the right-hand side of the window we still have 5 over 2. This 5 over 2 is still stored in the calculator. And so now with just a couple button presses we can change this to mixed number form. Here we can hit second, which is the green button in the upper left, followed by a button next to the N/D button. It has a lot of little symbols on it, but you can see it says times 10 raised to n in white and N/D and U/D in green. The calculator display may look a little bit garbled for the moment, but when we press enter, you can see on the right side of the window it now displays 2.5. This is the same answer, but it is in mixed number form. So using the TI-30XS, we can take that 10 over 4 fraction we started with, change it to improper form, or change it to mixed number form. We can also use the TI-30XS to add fractions together. I'll move the window to the left now and show you the next problem, where we're supposed to add the fractions 3 over 4 plus 7 over 8. Let's begin by entering the 3 over 4. We begin by pressing the numerator, 3, and then the N/D button to turn it into a fraction, and then say 4. Now, if we're going to do an operation after this, we're going to press the right-hand arrow on this little arrow bank in the upper right corner of the button panel. Then we'll say plus to show our operation will be plus. Then we'll enter 7/8. We'll first say 7, and then N/D to change to fraction, and then press 8. Then we press enter, now that we have both fractions entered. This gives us 13 over 8 as our answer. Once again, we can change this into a mixed number, again using the TI-30XS. With the 13 over 8 still stored in our calculator, we'll hit second, and then the same mixed number button we did last time. When we press enter, we end up with 1 and 5/8. So on this calculator, if we say 13 over 8 and then second and then the mixed number button, this will give us 1 and 5/8 as our mixed number answer. Another common type of calculator for this class will be the TI-30X2S. If you have this type of calculator, the problems will go slightly differently. We'll open up the other calculator for you now. On this calculator, we can still enter fractions. However, the button is slightly different. Rather than using an N over D button like you would on the TI-30XS, the X2S instead uses this button, the ABC button. To enter 10 over 4 into this calculator, we will say 10 first, and then press the ABC button, and then say 4. When we press the ABC button, this gives us this little triangle, but this triangle stands for a division bar. It will look a little bit different than the TI-30XS. Just as a reminder, I'll write that we said 10, and then the ABC button, and then 4. When we press the equal sign, we get this strange looking answer, 2, and then an underline, and then 1, and then the triangle, and then 2. I'll show you what this means. The TI-30X2S does its operations slightly differently. It will, by default, give you a mixed number rather than an improper fraction. So bear this in mind if you're using the X2S version. The 2 that is in front is the whole number, followed by the 1, which is the numerator on the fraction, and then followed by the 2 that's after the triangle, and that's the denominator. Therefore, our mixed number answer will be 2 followed by a 1 over 2. This is the same answer the TI-30XS gave us. It's just a little bit more difficult to read because of these unfamiliar symbols. The whole number is the 2 out to the left, the numerator is the 1 on top, and the denominator is the 2 on the bottom. Once you get used to reading this and practice a little bit, it'll become second nature eventually. We can also change this answer to improper notation. To switch to improper notation, we can now hit the second key, followed by the ABC button a second time. So by hitting second ABC, we get 5 over 2, which is improper. Just so you'll have a picture, I'll place that underneath the mixed number. In hitting second followed by the ABC, we will get our improper fraction. Now that we know how to get mixed and improper fractions using the TI-30X2S, we'll now enter 3/4 plus 7/8. We'll say 3, ABC 4, and then plus 7, ABC 8. Before I press equals, I'll write this down on the slide. Once we press enter, we have 1 as our whole number, 5 as our numerator, and 8 as our denominator. This means in mixed form, our answer is 1 5/8. Once again, we can change this into improper form by pressing second and pressing ABC. We'll do this now by pressing the second button in the upper left, and then the ABC button, and we see now we have 13 over 8. 13 as the numerator, 8 as the denominator. On paper, we write this as the fraction 13 as the numerator, 8 as the denominator, or 13/8 if you wish. So you can see both calculators give you the same answers, but they give you the answers in a different order. Some students may have an even older calculator called a TI-84. A lot of students coming from high school may have used this in the past. We don't recommend this calculator for the course because it's not as good with fraction math, but with a little bit of trickery it will work. For example, if we have 10 divided by 4, we can go to our calculator, and when we bring up the calculator we can say 10, and then the division sign, and then 4. When we press enter, we'll get a decimal value by default. That's 2.5. However, we can change this to a fraction by hitting this math button on the left side of the calculator, and then followed by option 1. To select option 1, which is currently highlighted in black, we'll press enter. This gives us a display that says answer arrow key fraction. Just press enter a second time, and now we get a display of 5/2. So just as a reminder, we'll say 10/4 and press equals. This gives us 2.5. But then we went to the math button, and then we pressed enter twice. When we pressed enter twice, we ended up with 5/2, which is an improper fraction. Changing this into a mixed number will require us to explore the menus a little bit. Let's open the calculator back up again. In order to change to mixed, we'll have to say math again. Now we'll need to go to the number section, which is to the right side. So we'll press the right arrow key to highlight NUM for number. Now we'll scroll down on the list by using the down arrow key. After we've pressed a few times, you'll see an option A, which says ND arrow UND. This is the function that will change improper to mixed or mixed back to improper. Once we've highlighted option A, we press enter twice, and this gives us 2.5, just as our other calculators did. So once again, to get here, we said math, then num, then option A. But notice we still got 2.5 for our mixed number. It's the same answer, but takes a lot more button presses than the other calculators. Through the same method, we can make the TI-84 add fractions together. We'll take 3/4 plus 7/8. With our calculator up, we'll begin by saying 3, the division sign, then 4, then the plus sign, then 7, then the division sign again, and then the 8. When we press enter, we'll get a decimal 1.625. Just like last time, to change to improper, we'll press the math button right afterward, and we'll say enter twice. And just like before, we get 13/8. Then we can change this to mixed by going to the math button, then the number section, and then option A. This will change us to mixed. In our calculator, once again, we click math, then press the right arrow key, and then scroll down to option A. Press enter twice, and again we get 1 5/8, just like before. This will handle the procedure for dealing with fractions, both with addition and reducing them to lowest terms with most of the common calculators you might have access to. Most other calculators will have buttons fairly similar to this, using the N/D button or the ABC button. It'll all depend on what model you use.